My name's Joe Tuckey. I'm the fire chief for the City of Tecumseh Fire Department. Been here with the department for 32 years now. And we're here to talk a little bit about bicycle safety and what to do if you are in a wreck on a bicycle and need first aid and there's nobody around, how you can help yourself.
All right, perfect. So to start off with, what are some typical injuries that you could expect to see while riding your bicycle?
Typically, what you're going to see is a lot of scrapes, cuts, abrasions, that kind of stuff, what we call road rash. You could also go as far as have broken bones such as wrist, arm, ankle possibly. Worst case scenario, you hit your head if you're not wearing a helmet. That's why we recommend wearing helmets when you're riding your bikes. You know, hit your head. If you have the helmet, it gives you some protection. If you don't, your head's going to hit the asphalt or the cement and cause a head injury that could be life-threatening as well as debilitating.
All right, perfect. Are there any certain items you would recommend bicyclists have with them, just in case something were to happen?
Yeah, obviously we talked about the helmet. We want to make sure they have the helmet. Gloves aren't a bad thing if you're riding distances. You know, you'll see a lot of those bikers are wearing gloves, that kind of stuff, just to protect their hands a little bit if they were to fall, anything like that. You know, most bike riders that travel long distances are usually in shorts and short sleeve shirts, things like that, but they're usually the more experienced bike riders, but they still get in wrecks, things like that. So they make sure that they obviously have somebody knows where they're going, what they're doing before they head out. So if they don't come back, they kind of know the route that they took. You can have a first aid kit with some bandages and some dressings and things like that in there to protect yourself. Water, carrying a water bottle, those types of things. So basically that would be the extent of it. You're not going to be able to carry a lot, I don't think. If you're carrying a backpack, you probably carry a little bit more. But most people don't head out with a first aid kit. But if you are planning a trip, it's a good thing to have.
All right, perfect. And then what about at night? What kind of things do you recommend to make yourself a little safer while bicycling at night? Yeah,
obviously at night, anything fluorescent, yellow, orange, that's going to show up in the headlights. Make sure you have all the reflectors on your bicycle. A light, I've seen lights that basically, though, like strobe lights as they're pedaling and things like that. Those definitely get people's attention. You want to make sure you're traveling in a direction that's offering you safety. Whether you're traveling with the traffic or against traffic, depending on where you're going and what you're riding. Wherever possible, ride on the bike paths. It offers you protection, and be aware of other drivers and things like that around you. They make sure that they're going to see you, so you can't count on it. So you want to be defensive, I guess would be the best way to say it.
Okay. And if somebody were to get into an accident and they had quite a bad injury that resulted in a lot of blood that would not stop bleeding, what are some things that a bicyclist or even a pedestrian who sees it can do to try and stop the bleeding?
Yeah. First off, I'll call 911 as quickly as you can, or if there's other bystanders, have somebody else go call 911. In any type of bleeding, the first approach is to apply direct pressure. Take a t-shirt or something like that, just apply direct pressure over the wound, try to slow down the bleeding. We're trying to get the blood to clot, basically, and that will stop the bleeding, but in some severe wounds it will not. In some places, if you got a severe leg injury or an arm injury, you might have to go to a tourniquet if there's not going to be any response for a while, and you could have blood loss that could be life-threatening. So tourniquets, that kind of stuff, where you basically would tie a piece of cloth around just above the wound, and then you get a stick, hook it in there, and twist that to tighten down so that the arteries are clamped off and won't allow blood to circulate through there. Issue you get in there is you don't want to remove that. You want to let trained EMS personnel go in and remove that if they need to, and things like that, because the bleeding will start up again right as soon as you take that off. So once it's on, make sure that it stays on. Also note the time that you put it on so we know how long it's been on and that limb has been without blood supplies.
Okay, and what about anything for broken bones?
Broken bones, basically just try to support the bone, the leg or the arm as best you can. Try to not move it too much. Wait for EMS to arrive. Obviously, again, have somebody call 911 if they're available. If you have your own phone, most people carry their own phones. Call 911. You want to know your location or approximate location. Try not to move too much. Can do some more damage, that kind of stuff, and you're probably not going to have enough materials to do any splinting or anything like that. So if you are out in the woods camping someplace and that's an issue, then you can make splints using sticks and cloth and things like that, bandages or whatever you might have in a first aid kit to support that.
Okay. So I feel head injuries could potentially be quite common, especially if you fall and hit your head on the cement or something, and that could possibly result in a concussion, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Concussion or a closed head injury.
Okay.
Basically, that you may never recover from.
Okay. What are some signs that an individual has a concussion?
Some confusion. They don't really know the event, what took place, the time of day. Are they answering our questions appropriately? That's what we're always looking for. Then have they been drinking, using any drugs, anything like that? We got to kind of rule that kind of stuff out. Do they have any medical history that might cause them, like are they diabetic, which may cause them to act a little bit inebriated or something like that if their sugar's low? That could cause them to act like they're not going to know the time, place, the event, things like that. So we've got to kind of get some medical history. So, but head injuries, you want to look at the pupils and things like that and make sure that they're equal and reactive to light and all those types of things. So, obviously you're looking for the trauma, whether they got a bump on their head, they're bleeding from the head, anything like that. So then in those cases, we want to offer support to the patient, not let them move their necks around too much, things like that. We'll come in and put a collar on them. We don't use backboards too much anymore, unless we have to try to move a patient for any distance. But those are some of your general signs. The biggest thing, do they know what's going on? You don't want to let that person, if you suspect a brain injury or head injury, don't let them go to sleep or anything like that. Keep them talking. Don't give any fluids to them. That kind of stuff, especially if you expect anybody's going to be going into surgery, whether it's a broken bone, anything like that, don't give them any fluids. So they're going to be thirsty, but you say, you got to wait till you get to the hospital. So.
Okay. And then what about with people who are a little older and are bicycling? What if they have like a stroke or a heart attack or something while they are on the road?
Yeah, basically for strokes and heart attack, it's knows the signs and symptoms for the most part. And I know that they've got a lot of ads on TV and the radio, things like what are the signs of stroke and those types of things. You may realize you're having it, you may not. Somebody that riding with you might realize something's not right. And in the stroke situation, you're looking for that slurred speech, maybe a facial droop. Maybe they all of a sudden they're walking with a limp, or they're not able to walk. That kind of stuff. That's a serious medical emergency, and then the quicker we can get them to the hospital, the quicker they can get the drugs that will help break those clots up. Heart attacks, in many cases, the general thing is chest pain, radiating typically to the left arm or the jaw or the back. It's different for women than it is men in some cases. The symptoms are a little bit different. Sweating, racing heart, those types of things could be indications. Basically the only thing that you can do out in the field for that is to just stop where you rest. If you have baby aspirin, anything like that, you can take take some of that baby aspirin or low dose aspirin, that kind of stuff to help with that. That's kind of the first indicator or first thing that they can do, and just get EMS rolling as soon as possible.
Okay, and then the final question is some tips and tricks for like overexertion or like heat stroke, anything like that, if you're bicycling long distances and in the middle of the summer, for example.
Anytime you're going to go out, obviously we stated have a plan where you're going to go. Let somebody know where you're going to be, so in case there is an emergency, you don't show up to a checkpoint at a certain time. You don't check in or whatever. But make sure you have plenty of fluids with you. Hydrate before you go on your ride. Hydrate during your ride. Those types of things. Try not to stay out in the sun too long. If you start feeling lightheaded, a little nauseous, queasy, those are some signs that you might have some heat issues going on, or it could be a low blood sugar issue, if you know, so make sure you're carrying snacks, that kind of stuff. If you are a diabetic already, take your test kit, check your sugar, those types of things. So and those folks typically know what they need, whether it's a protein bar or something like that they need to eat to keep their sugar up, that kind of stuff. So those would be the easiest ones. But the biggest thing is just make sure you're drinking plenty of fluids and that kind of stuff, and avoid the heat of the day if you can, and you know, cycle in the morning or cycle in the evening.
All right, perfect. And anything else you would like to add?
Just be safe out there. Stick to the bike routes wherever you can. They're popping up more and more. You know, the trails and those types of things. Make sure you're wearing your safety gear that you have. Always wear a helmet, even though some of us older folks weren't brought up that way. It's not a bad idea. I have a helmet, don't always wear it, should. I have seen, you know, obviously in our line of work, we've seen people that if they were wearing a helmet, they would have come out, had a different outcome possibly. So that's an important thing to remember.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.